How is the proposed sales tax, this proposed city sales tax, how is that going to affect your business?
Well, on the retail side, it'll affect the jewelry sales. There'll be a 2% tax on the jewelry. I'm not so concerned about myself. What I'm concerned about is the activity that's in downtown Grants Pass, basically. That's what I'm concerned with. I rely a lot on foot traffic. Most of my business is based on buying, so my impact is not, it's not a huge impact actually on my business. But if we start losing businesses in the downtown area, which I've been talking to people who are already on the verge, they don't do as much volume as we do, and they're already on the verge thinking about closing down. And this is one of the things that's never considered when people pass a new tax. People who are on the verge of thinking about closing their business down when there's a new law passed that's against them, because any tax is against the person that's being taxed, whether you receive a benefit ultimately or not. And so a lot of people, I think, that are on the borderline, they're thinking about staying open for another 6 months or another year, maybe 2 years, and then throwing in the towel, they'll just go ahead and throw in the towel. And I've had several people tell me that already. And so my concern with my shop is the less traffic, the more the downtown looks like a ghost town.
Broken window effect.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really, really bad. I think people don't understand. This hasn't really been done with a general sales tax in a city right next to another city that doesn't have one. And they did admit, in the meeting that it was arbitrary that Medford's 25 minutes away, that they haven't really done the research. They can't really compare it. They compared the income of this city to cities in Washington State, which I don't think you can do effectively. And they also use census data, and census data includes online retail sales. And if you do that, you're not really getting a picture of what the volume is going to be like and what you're going to get. And there's no inclusion in the data of the businesses that are going to close and that lack of income. So there's a lot of things that have not been considered. We're not in a fish bowl. People can get outside of the bowl and go shop.
Right.
And Grants Pass is in a very unique situation. It's where Ashland was 20 years ago. And I'm not advocating a mills tax, but they passed the mills tax instead of a general sales tax because they have the Shakespeare crowd, and they're stuck there. They're not going to drive to Medford to go eat, okay, because they're on tour in Ashland. And they knew that, so they stuck it to the tourists. I don't think it'd work in Grants Pass because a lot of these restaurants, first of all, they're not packed when I see them, when I frequent them. And second of all, they rely a lot on the local people. And so that would not fit here, and the voters have already rejected that as well, seeing for what it was, being unfair. So the general sales tax hasn't been tried. It's been presented, but it's never been tried next to a larger city. And so when you have the percentage of people here in Grants Pass, they're going into Medford and they're shopping already. If they come in the shop, I had a guy come in today, for example, and he got a price on something. He said it was a $1,000 item. He said it was $20 more than what he pays, wherever else he buys it, and he walked out. Okay, so if that's exactly what the sales tax is on $1,000 is $20. And for $20, he said he needed to think about it. Well, he never came back. He came in, what time was that, Jacob? 10 o'clock, 10:30? Right. So he didn't come back. $20, not coming back. Okay, so there's a live example of the impact that it's going to have. On a wedding set, someone comes in, $1,200 wedding set, it's an extra $20. They may say, hey, you know what, we're going to Medford anyway next week, let's go check it out over there. That little thought, and it's also human psychology. When you ring up an item, and the item costs more than what they were actually looking at, and psychologically the person is not prepared to pay that because they're not used to it, it stops them, and they feel like they've been defrauded.
I'm from California, so I know all about
that. You're
used
to
when
that.
I first moved up here, I was blown away.
Yes.
Hey, that's exactly what the price tag says.
Exactly. It blows you away, and you get used to it, and most of the people here have been here for a while, and I've been here since the early 90s, and so...
I suppose it probably would do wonders for a burgeoning commercial district in Merlin, if one were to take off up there, but
well, most people are actually looking at Rogue River.
Yeah,
it's just right down the street. And I've talked to several people who are looking at Rogue River. I don't know how that's going to work out. People, because this is where the population is for Josephine County, and the next largest population base is Medford. So I don't know how well that strategy is going to work out, going into Rogue River. But that's what people are saying. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. What I think is going to happen is people who are already borderline on what they're going to do, if they're thinking about closing, they're just going to go ahead and do it. That's what I'm thinking. And then we'll be back where we were 4 years ago when the downtown looked a little bit like a ghost town. Remember that?
No.
Yep. We'll be back there, and that won't be good for anybody. I'm in a business, even though most of my volume is buying, I need competitors around me. I need a place for the customers to come, bounce their prices off each other. And the same thing with the jewelry. People need to come down here. They need 3 jewelry stores. They need to be able to look at all of them and then make a selection and not feel like they need to travel around. And I think 3 is a really good number. If you get down to 1, I don't think that's good for the single person who's left. It seems like it might be good, but economically speaking, when you look at it from the textbook perspective, it's not good. And that's what I'm concerned about with the sales tax, is the fact that we're not in a bowl where people have a choice and they already go to measure. So what's going to stop them from picking up all their goods when they're there? And I'm not sure what's going to happen with Walmart. Have you heard anything? Is Walmart going to be 2% more?
I don't know. I would suspect that they would have to be. I mean, it's anything non-food item or something, isn't it?
Right. So if you're going to go on your weekly trip and you're thinking about going to Costco, go to Walmart as well, and Medford might be happening as well. So
sure.
That's another thing. There's a lot of stuff here that hasn't really been worked out, and it's kind of an experiment.
Well, let me ask you, if they do pass it and you do stay here, how do you feel about the 5% compensation for being an unpaid tax collector, except for that 5%? What do you feel about the 5% compensation to be a tax collector?
I don't, it's not going to cover the costs of doing it. I mean, I have no idea. I've never, I came to Oregon to open a business because there was no sales tax, because that's less paperwork for the people that I sell to and for myself. And so we're a diamond brokerage mostly. We deal in coins and jewelry, but we do mostly diamonds. And it makes things 10 times easier when someone comes in the door. You fill out the receipt, you don't have to worry about the sales tax. But we can, with the diamonds, we have the Ashland shop. And so if people really have a problem, they can do the shopping over there. We can send them that way. I don't know if they're going to go to Ashland for $20, but like I say, I had a guy walk out today for $20. And of course the sales tax isn't active. It's just the cost here was $20 more than he thought it was somewhere else. I don't think it is. I think when he goes there, he's going to see it's the same. But it's the fact that
he's already shopped here. Now he's there.
Exactly, because we before we priced our goods, we called around to make sure we're the exact or cheaper. So he may have been bluffing or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, when he goes over there and finds it, he's now going to buy it over there. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with the 2%. People are going to come in and they're going to say, well, we know automatically it's 2% more. Why don't we see if they have this item somewhere else? And so it's not going to benefit us. And I understand the situation that they're in with, they need funds for law enforcement, but most cities, if you look at these levies, law enforcement is already funded. You're supposed to fund them first, and then you're supposed to pass these types of things for sewers and improvements on the infrastructure. That's what Ashland did, I believe. Wasn't it the sewer treatment plant was the Mills tax? Do you remember?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that was the same thing in Yachats. And so they're asking for a sales tax for something that government's supposed to already be doing and already paying for, and other things are supposed to have a shortfall, not the police department.
Mm. I do know that there is somewhere between $80 and $100 million water treatment plant project that needs to be funded in the next few years here in Grand
So you'll see
Valley.
another levy for that as well.
You probably will.
And then there's also talk at the state level of analyzing the counties and seeing if they have enough of a levy for law enforcement, or the ones that are short for law enforcement, not enough funding, doing something at the state level. And now you have a ballot measure that's going to be voted on by Portlandia, and that's going to pass. Anything that's a tax will pass in Portland.